The entire solar system seemed to pause in anticipation last night. On October 3rd at Universal Time, the interstellar comet designated 3I glided by Mars. This marked its nearest encounter with any world during its solitary trek across our cosmic neighborhood. Astronomers had spent months gearing up for the event, yet neither NASA nor ESA nor the most experienced comet observers anticipated the spectacle that followed. As the comet's frozen core moved quietly through the emptiness, coming within 29 million kilometers of Mars, every probe circling the crimson world redirected its gaze toward the intruder. Instruments on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Mars Express, MAV, and the Trace Gas Orbiter stood ready. Even on the rugged Martian terrain, vehicles such as Perseverance took on auxiliary monitoring roles, their detectors calibrated to detect the slightest shifts in the air. For the first time, humankind was positioned to examine an extrasolar wanderer up close and in the moment. Initially, observations appeared routine: a subtle green shimmer, a faint dust envelope, and an extended tail stretching sunward, all standard fare until it suddenly wasn't. The comet's light grew gradually brighter before surging with startling force, as if an internal mechanism had activated. Its surrounding cloud swelled, radiating so fiercely that sensors had to adjust on the fly. Streams of gas burst from under its surface. These weren't the typical water emissions, but intense releases of carbon dioxide and cyanogen compounds in unprecedented volumes. Spectral readings flared with patterns that experts had previously only simulated. To those directing the operations, the scene resembled less a routine planetary skim and more a deliberate introduction from the outsider. Then the polar lights appeared. With its sparse air and irregular magnetic zones, Mars seldom experiences such displays. But during the flyby's key hours, detectors registered abrupt ultraviolet flares sweeping over the dark hemisphere. These lights shimmered with a brilliance far exceeding what any stellar flare might produce. Traces led directly to the comet's trajectory. It was almost like 3IATL had grazed the planet's upper layers and set them vibrating. Yet the true astonishment arrived shortly after. Chunks started detaching from the comet's core. Probes positioned high over Mars imaged the glittering debris as it veered away. Rather than following predictable orbital paths, these pieces curved and wound in formations unlike any prior comet disintegration. Certain researchers called it helical fragmentation, others termed it synchronized migration. The more fanciful among them whispered a term astronomers typically shun: intentional. Right away, the Trace Gas Orbiter registered yet another irregularity: an abrupt rise in methane within Mars's upper layers. For years, methane had puzzled scientists on the red world, emerging in odd, brief spikes before fading entirely. This instance, however, brought a clear, pointed increase, synchronized precisely with the comet's proximity. Had 3I Atlas introduced alien frosts to Mars, or had the comet's energy stirred a latent presence deep in the soil? Answers remained elusive. Still, the coincidence felt too precise to overlook. And then the transmission emerged. It started weakly, lost amid interference, a steady drone repeating every 22 seconds. NASA's technicians initially wrote it off as equipment glitch, but soon ESA's Mars Express verified the identical cadence from a completely different angle. 2 probes, separate tools, matching rhythm. It persisted in data streams for almost an hour, too faint for deliberate signaling, yet too patterned to ignore outright. Later explanations cited plasma effects, the inherent vibration between a comet's electrified trail and Mars's charged surface. But in the control centers, quiet speculations arose. Suppose it proved artificial? At the same time, Earth-based hobbyists documented their share of the enigma. Long exposure shots revealed the comet's radiance amplifying to vivid emerald hues. Typically, such luminescence stems from sunlight-excited carbon pairs. However, spotters observed the intensity had almost doubled following the Mars encounter. As even if the comet had taken in some essence during the close pass and was now flaring with greater intensity, luminosity, and peculiarity, rumors proliferated rapidly. Certain experts thought it bore interstellar compounds, now blending into Mars's air. Some proposed that its twisting pieces pointed to an inner magnetic force, a feature comets aren't supposed to possess, and the most daring idea claimed the steady throbs and odd rubble formations were signs of a constructed entity rather than a random cosmic drifter. NASA and ESA hurried to frame the narrative in scientific terms. Official statements mentioned atypical reactions, gas releases, and unexpected plasma behaviors. Yet, in private discussions, scientists pondered grimmer scenarios. Could this really be just a comet? Or was it something else? Perhaps a relic traversing our solar system disguised as frozen grit. For the robots on the red planet, the event passed quietly yet noticeably. Perseverance's overhead cameras captured the subtle radiance above. Curiosity's particle detectors registered tiny surges of energized bits. Even InSight's Quake monitor, inactive for ages, detected bizarre electrical interference, eventually linked to the comet's sweep. It appeared every device on Mars sensed the intruder's transit. The planet now anticipates whatever follows. 3. IATLS presses on toward the Sun, aiming for its nearest point on October 29th. If it's acting this oddly so far from the star near Mars, imagine the chaos as it dives into the scorching core. Might it shatter dramatically, flinging exotic particles into the solar gusts? Or could it stay intact, its verdant trail intensifying as it hurtles near Earth's path in December? The outcomes spark both excitement and dread. In a benign case, the comet disintegrates safely, yielding just readings and residue. In a riskier one, sizable chunks persist in the inner realms, intersecting paths with Mars and potentially Earth down the line. And in the creepiest hypothesis, the comet's actions are deliberate. Those throbs, the coiled debris, the abrupt methane increase, each might signal purposeful engineering. If that's the case, then 3IATLS isn't merely a guest, it's a scout, and its skim past Mars last night was mere practice. Picture yourself on the Martian ground in that instant, the evening heavens tinted emerald by the comet's light, unnatural auroras dancing in the void. Overhead, shards whirling like guided probes as the sparse air quivers from unseen vibrations. To the surface explorers, the satellites, and the distant gazes from home, it felt like catching a fleeting cosmic riddle etched in the void. Now, every key Earth-based facility is fixed on the comet. The James Webb Space Telescope bides its time for an unobstructed site post-solar alignment. Terrestrial radio networks scan for anomalous signals. Amateur observers pitch in, too, tracking luminosity jumps live. The research world is buzzing like it hasn't since Oumuamua darted through our vicinity. But this stands apart. Oumuamua was quiet, a fleeting phantom too swift for deep analysis. Borisov acted predictably, like a standard icy traveler. Yet 3IATLS defies norms. It flares without reason. It breaks in elegant coils. It signals Mars with timed vibrations. It trails methane unexpectedly. It shines a vivid green in the blackness, and it seems less a thing and more a tale in progress. One we're only starting to decipher. The next few weeks will reveal the tale's significance. Should 3IATLS endure its solar graze, the following act might play out perilously near our planet's route. If not, if solar fury tears it asunder, the shards will disperse, each bearing identical foreign makeup, enigmas, and lingering puzzles. But one truth stands firm. Following last night, Mars bears a scar. Lights where darkness ruled, gas where stability held, signals where quiet prevailed. Thus, when scholars reflect on October 3rd in 2025, folks might not recall it merely as a comet's pass. They could view it instead as the evening when humanity grasps that cosmic travelers don't always arrive in silence. Occasionally, they graze a world and scatter far more enigmas than resolutions. Now and then, the cosmos taps gently, steadily, simply to check if we're attuned. Should 3IL truly hold deeper secrets, then the previous night marked no conclusion. Rather, it served as the prelude, the initial segment of a spectacle spanning the heavens. The sole remaining puzzle is if we're mere spectators or active participants. After all, Mars wasn't solitary that evening, and we're not either.